Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Hello everyone. Welcome back to the PL-300 exam preparation series where we are looking at the first learning path, prepare the data. In this video, we are going to explore the topic change the value in a parameter, which is part of the section get data from data sources. Before we actually go and see how we can change the values of parameters inside the Power Query editor, first let's see how parameters can be used inside of Power Query editor. So there are many different ways in which we can use a parameter. The first example is that if you want to change the data source dynamically, for example, database name, the Excel file path, or address of the data source, then we can create a parameter and pass the value of the data source dynamically to that particular parameter. Similarly, if we have connected to a database and we want to change the name of the table or a sheet within an Excel file, we can also use a parameter to pass the names of the tables or the Excel sheets. And the third use is inside the custom functions. So we can create custom functions inside of Power Query, and then inside these custom functions we can pass these parameters. So changing a set of transformations using a value coming from another table. So a value coming from another table can be passed as a parameter to the custom function. The custom functions is not a part of the PL-300 exam syllabus, so we are just going to restrict ourselves to changing the value inside the parameter, or how we can pass a value to a parameter. So we are going to take an example, and in this example we are going to use an article that is there on this particular URL. So I am going to put this URL in the content as well, so you can just copy this URL and then follow along. And we are just going to cover the parameter part. We are not going to cover the custom function part. The data source that we are going to use for this particular example is this one. This is the URL for the data source. So this is a web data source. So we haven't connected to any web data source as yet in any of the videos. So in this example, you are also going to learn how we can use a web data source and how we can connect to a web data source. So now let's go to the Power Query editor and create a new file and learn how we can create parameters and pass values to the parameters and then change the values of those parameters. Here I have opened up a new Power BI file and I am inside the Power Query editor. And now I'm going to click on new source, and here the connector that I'm going to use is the web connector. So I'm going to click here on the web connector, and this is going to open up the connector window, and here it says that you need to pass the URL. So I have just copied the URL that I just showed you, and I'm going to paste this URL here, and then I'm going to click on OK. After a few seconds, it opens up the credentials window. So I do not require any credentials, so I have selected anonymous and I'm going to click on connect. After a few seconds, it opens up the navigator window, and here it is showing me the possible tables that are embedded in that website. So what is that website about? So that website is a public website which gives you the holidays, the public holidays that take place for every year in New Zealand. So I have just picked this up from the article that I showed you in the slide deck just a few moments ago, and we are using the same example here. So basically what we have passed as the URL is the 2021 holidays. So it is going to return tables which have the public holidays and their respective dates for New Zealand in 2021. So the table of interest here for me is this one. So I have selected this table 1 here, and then I'm going to press on OK. So after a few seconds, it has shown me the query, which is table 1, and the respective table is shown here in this area. So now I'm going to just remove a few things. So I see that this is a blank column and I do not require this column. So I am just going to remove this column. So I'm going to right click and I am going to remove this column. So this column has been removed. Now I am left with two columns, one with the holiday and one with the respective date for that public holiday. So I need to bring this holiday and date as my headers. So I can easily do that. I'm going to go inside the transform option here, and I'm going to use this option just next to the group by, which says use first row as headers, and I'm going to just select this used first row as headers. And once I click on this, you can see that the first row is no longer there, and the value of holiday and date is now inside the now changed to the header. So now the table is in the form, in the desired form, on which we are going to create a parameter and then pass this parameter to dynamically pass the value of the year, which is part of the URL. Let me just rename this query as holidays instead of table 1 so that it becomes more clear that what we are talking about. So I have renamed this query as holidays, and now I am going to create my parameter. So for creating my parameter, I'm going to click in the home area, and here you can see there is this option of parameters which has the further manage parameters written here. So I'm going to click on this manage parameters here, and I'm going to click on new parameter. After a few seconds, it opens up the manage parameters window, and here I can define my parameter. So I have to give it a name. So I'm going to give it a name year. If I want to add a description, I can even add that description, but this is not mandatory. Then you have to specify the type of the parameter. So we know we are going to create parameter as an year, but we know that the data source is a URL and URL is text. So we are actually going to change this into a text value because we want to append the parameter to our URL. So it has to be a text. If I want to give any suggested value, I can give here any of the values from the option. So it says any value, list of values, or query. So I am just sticking with the any value, and then I can give a current value. So I am giving it a current value of 2021 because our URL is pointing to the holidays for the year 2021. So these are the fields that you require to create a parameter, and now I am going to click on OK. So after a few seconds, you can see that inside the query area here in the left, I can see that my parameter has been created, and the current value which I specified is 2021. So this is how you can create a parameter. Now the next step is that how we can pass this parameter to a query. We can pass this parameter to a query itself, and we can add a column, and we can pass this value to a column, or the main goal, which is to make the query dynamic. So we are going to pass this parameter to the URL. So we are going to replace the 2021 part inside the parameter with inside the URL with this parameter, and then we can see how we can make the URL dynamic. So first I am going to create a new column inside my holidays query, and I am going to pass the value of the parameter to that query inside a new column. So for that, I am going to go and click on add column, and here I am going to click on custom column. So now it has opened up the custom column window. So I am going to give it the name of the new column. So I'm going to give it current year, and here in the formula I am just going to pass the value of the parameter, which is year. So I am saying that for all the records inside this column, just give the value of year, and I know that my syntax is correct, so I can just go and click on OK. So you can see that a new column named current year has been added, and for all the records it is showing the value of the year, which is at present 2021. I'm going to change the data type to a text value, so that once we change the value, we can see the effect here. Now I am going to use this parameter, which is year, and I am going to change my URL. So this is what the actual requirement was, that I am going to parameterize my URL. And for that, I need to go into the applied steps area here. And here I'm going to change the data source URL. So here I'm just going to click on this icon, this wheel icon, and this opens up the URL that was used to connect to the data source. So here, instead of the basic, I am not now going to connect on the advanced. And what I am going to do here right now is I am going to break this URL, this given URL, into multiple parts, so that instead of 2021, I can put the value of my parameter here. So I am going to parameterize this URL by putting in the value of the parameter, or the parameter itself becoming a part of the URL. So now let's see how we can do that. So first I am going to copy everything including 2021 till the end of the parameter. So 2021.html, I have selected this and I am going to cut this. So I am going to cut this part from here and I am going to put this part in the next line. So I have just pasted this here. So now my URL has been split into two parts, but you can see that the URL preview is showing me the same URL. So it is effectively just concatenating the two parts. So the overall URL is the same. Now I am going to just copy the part .html. So anything after 2021, I am going to cut this and I am going to click on add part here and then paste this part in the next cell, and you can clearly see that the URL is now still the same. Now what I want to do is that I want to replace this 2021 with my parameter. So how you can do that? You can just click on this drop down here, and here you can go and select the parameter. So the only parameter that we have is year. So it has automatically put year here, and now you can see that in the URL the 2021 part has been replaced by the parameter, but the parameter has been placed inside the curly brackets here. So now I am going to just go and click on OK. So we have parameterized our URL, and you can go and just have a look in the formula bar here that previously we had the entire URL at this point. Now the URL has been changed by using the parameter, and then the ampersand sign here shows that we are concatenating this year value inside the URL, and that is why we created this year as a text, because we cannot concatenate a text value with a whole number. So this is how you can change the data source URL and make it as parameterized. Now is the time to test our parameter. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to click here in the queries area on the parameter, and I'm going to change this value from 2021 to 2020 and just click on enter. And after a few seconds, once I go and click on the holidays query here, you can see that now my current year value has been changed, and also the data has been changed. So now what is happening, that instead of the year 2021, the parameter has actually changed the URL. So now the URL for the website is based on the year 2020, and the data for 2020 is now here. So now these holidays and the dates represent the data from the year 2020. So this parameter has now given me the flexibility that I can go and change the value to whatever year I want to change, and the URL will automatically fetch the value for this particular year, and that value will be shown up here in the query inside the Power Query editor. So this is how you can create a parameter, and then you can parameterize your data source using that parameter and use the parameter to bring in the data dynamically. So this is a very, very powerful feature that you can use. The parameters can also be used inside of custom functions, but custom functions is not a part of the PL-300 syllabus, so we are not going to cover the custom functions here in this particular video. Before I end this video, I just want to show you the URL that I had used in this particular example and showed in the slide deck. So this is the URL for the tutorial that we have followed. So this is an example that is there on the redacad.com website. So you can just follow this example, although this example also covers the custom functions, but we haven't covered the custom functions part. We have just covered the part where we have done the URL parameterization. So it is up to you if you want to go and explore this entire blog or entire tutorial and you want to also learn about custom function. So it is up to you. So parameters we have covered in this video. Parameters is an important topic from the exam. You might get something on the exam related to the parameters. So you should be able to know how to create a parameter, how to change the value of a parameter, and how it looks inside the M script, like the script we saw where the parameter was placed as part of the URL and it was concatenated with the rest of the URL values. So that's all for this video, and I will see you in the next one.